Good evening, guys. So today, basically, I'm going to discuss about the Redis cache. The main reason that I picked this topic is so I don't need to prepare for this topic because using this one, and also we discussed about some cool stuff, and Hiran is also going to do some Azure related topics. So I thought about, okay, let's do this one, and this is going to be very useful for you guys. So I'm not going to discuss in this session, not to discuss a lot about the internals about Redis, but I'm going to mainly focus on how to apply this and get the benefits out of Redis. So because when I, even though it looks very straightforward, when I try to configure it with our project, I came across several scenarios. So since if you consider this as a kind of a knowledge sharing session, that's also fine. So we'll look into how to configure Redis and set up a sample project and play around with Redis. So it can be used across other projects as well. Okay. So before moving into the Redis cache, it's a cache, right? So what is a cache? So before, okay. We'll look into that topic first. So benefits of caching and what is caching and why we are using caching, because in the audience we have different people. So we have QAs, we have interns, we have experienced developers who already knows about these concepts, and different levels. So we'll to make sure we are all in we all have the same understanding. So I'll first discuss about the benefits of caching, and after that we'll come into the Redis cache and what is that, and history and whatever it is, and then I'm more interested in taking your attention into this demo, how to use Redis properly. So okay, so let's start. So talk about caching, right? So I mean, now the first question for a beginner, let's say, what is a cache? So I mean, during our university, we have learned about cache and those stuff. So now it's time to recall what we've learned. So okay, now it says cache provides high throughput and low latency. So it's all about these two keywords. That's what I'm going to highlight, and that's all what you need to put into your brain, right? So we want in our applications, we want them to perform well, right? So the good performance is being measured. I mean, when it comes to talking about performance in an application, throughput and latency are the keywords that we need to concentrate. Now, talking about the throughput and latency, the definitions are here. So, do I need to explain a bit more on that? Okay. So latency first, we'll take the word latency, and latency is the time required to do a particular operation, right? We'll discuss about with an example, with real world example, some simple one. And throughput is the number of such activities done for a particular within a given time period. For example, per second, per minute, kind of thing. So this is measured with the time. This is measured with activities for a given time. For example, if we take, okay, so in a car manufacturing scenario, for Toyota to make a width, it takes like 8 hours, right? And for that factory, that particular factory, it produces 120 cars per day. Okay, I mentioned two facts. Forget about Toyota and Wits. So it's a car manufacturing thing. I mean, this should be. I mean, anyone should be able to answer this question. So it's a factory to produce one car. If you look at these two definitions, pretty straightforward. To produce one car, it takes 8 hours, and per day it produces 120 cars. Okay, now I want someone to answer what is the latency and what is the throughput of that factory. If you think the operation is manufacturing a car. So, Jagan, sorry, if Jagan, yeah, Jagan, can you answer that question?
Latency is 8 hours.
Correct.
But you take rate of time for 1 day. Throughput is 1.
Throughput is
120 cars
120 cars
per day.
per day. Correct. Very good. Yeah. So I think everyone should understand that concept. Okay. So the whole purpose is in an application we want to reduce the latency and increase the throughput. So if that's, if you are doing that, the application will perform well. Now we are going to do this with caching, right? So yeah. Talking about caching, now we are talking about mem cache, so cache based on memory, right? So now I'm directly coming to this topic called distributed caching because there are several subtopics from caching to distributed caching. So in a cloud environment, for an example, there something that we are developing like Dhanuka. So we are working with our application. If we talk about a web application, it's being deployed among multiple web servers. So now, if you are caching, of course, in IPG or in other projects also we use caching, but having cache inside of each of these servers, that's the normal approach. Compared to the distributed caching approach, here we are talking about having a separate cluster of machines which are dedicated cache servers, and they are, of course, they can provide better, faster caching solutions to this one. The advantage is now when we separate the cache into these kind of separate cache servers, it's available to all these servers. The nature of these servers are depending on the load, there can be new servers being added to this web cluster, and there can be some nodes going out of this cluster depending on the server counts of faults or anything, right? So, but throughout all the time, we have the availability of cache servers. So this is the advantage of going to distributed caching in a cloud kind of environment, right? So is that okay? Straightforward, simple, right? Okay. Now we are going to the next step. So again, we will revise the benefits of caching before we move on to the big topic or the Redis cache. Okay. Now we just discussed. This is like just recapping what we just discussed. By avoiding the high latency data access of a persistent data storage, caching can dramatically improve application responsiveness. That's pretty straightforward. So now we are talking about a scenario where normally in a normal application development, we send a request, we go to the database, data store, and fetch the data and send the response. Now we are talking about, rather than fetching the data from a database, fetching it directly from a memory and serving it to the user, right? Okay. So definitely developers will be following me, but as QA engineers also, I think I want you guys to have a good understanding about this concept. That's why I'm trying to make it very clear. Another benefit is that it's reduced traffic to the persistent data storage, right? Now think about the 100 requests coming to the server, 80% being served by the cache, and only 20% is going to the persistent storage. So it's drastically reducing the traffic coming to the persistent data storage, right? So these stuff makes lot of sense when you have a real world experience. For an example, during the old experts, I think we really saw the benefits of caching in these kind of scenarios. And another very important thing is that caching works best for application workloads that do more reading than writing, right? So writing, anyway, you have to go to the persistent storage. Now, if your application is more on a reading savvy application, for an example, again, if I take the old classifieds example, for the new guys, it's a classifieds website where, for an example, the home page, if you come to the home page, it displays a list of categories, right? It's not going to change every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It will be there like for a long time. So that information and lot of traffic coming to the home page, and if we don't cache that, there will be lots of traffic hitting the database to query that all the time, right? Now we are talking about the data set you require to load the home page. We cache it in the memory and taking it from the memory. So that obviously that improves the caching a lot. So in your application, in your projects, current projects or in the future projects, if you identify there's a possibility of getting high traffic into this area, and we can simply cache it as a common object, then just do it. It's also more useful when application users share a lot of common data, like I just mentioned. When an application scales as a throughput, limits and latency delays of the persistent data storage, it becomes more of a limit to the application. So we are trying to avoid this by using the cache. Okay, now Redis is not the only caching solution provided by Microsoft. That's a fact I wanted to mention you with this slide. And Redis is not owned by Microsoft. So it's a free and open source caching solution available out there, redis.io. It's free, and they actually initially didn't have a Microsoft Windows kind of solution, but Microsoft has come up with some sample implementation. But what it meant to use is put it in a Linux box and use the Redis cache and use that cache. So even the Stack Overflow, they are using Redis cache. So what they do is they have a Linux box, and the other stuff are in Windows machines and using the cache from the Linux machine. So again, if Stack Overflow is using that, it must be good, right? Okay, the other one I just mentioned managed Azure managed cache service. Now this is based on something called App Fabric. I'm not going to touch that one, but nowadays this is the hot topic, and they are encouraging to use Redis cache, right? If you want to ask any question, please feel free to ask anything.
Azure Redis Cache, does it run on a Linux VM on top of Azure, or does it directly run on top of Azure?
Well, that Robin, I actually don't know. What it does is, so like it mentions, it gives you access to a secure dedicated Redis machine managed by Microsoft, right? So we don't know what Microsoft is managing. So what it means by managing is that when we start using Redis cache, so the Redis cache server, it has to be located somewhat. Even though we are talking about perfect distribution, so ideally the cache server should locate closer to our other VMs, right? So that's where you get this advantage of latency. And so when they are still in that machine, the RAM is a limited resource. So we are talking about RAM, and we are talking about 53 gig RAM. The Redis cache scalability, and it can go beyond that as well. So the cache version that we are using is like a 2 GB one, but again it's enough for our purposes. So it can scale, and that scalability is being managed by Microsoft, and the server upgrades, everything is being managed by Microsoft. So we are using it as out of the box solution. So during my demonstration, I'll be using one of our dev cache config cache servers to demo it to you guys. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury to create a free account and create the Azure cache. But there's one thing you can do. I'll tell you how to do that as well. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. So let's move on. Right. Now we are going to talk about Redis. So Redis actually, this is very interesting actually. Normally, when you talk about this highly intelligent kind of stuff, so a lot of effort and a lot of complex stuff, algorithms going on beside the Redis. So normally they are done by Jews, but this one is done by an Italian guy, right? I don't know his parents from there. Okay. So using Redis, applications become more responsive. That's of course that's very obvious, and it has advanced key value store. So I'm going to make this as an open statement. I'm not going to explain further on this one. So this is a very important thing compared to other caching solutions. So they have Redis provides an advanced key value store where keys can contain data structures such as strings. Actually, there are like 5 data structures that they support as keys, but during the demo I'll be using simple strings to demonstrate that to you. And also they have these 2 additional very good features. They have transactions. That's a very important thing where you can manage a certain operation within a transaction and publishing, subscribing some stuff. And they support SSL communication from our client to the cache communication. So those are like highlights. But this is a very interesting thing. So more and more you dig into this area, this particular implementation of Redis, you will really start enjoying the internals of that. Okay, now let's do the demo. Okay, so this is actually the Redis side. So this is nothing Microsoft. This is free and open source, and and if you look at the clients, so yes, C# is there, but a lot of other stuff are there. So if you look at C# and if you look at the C# clients here, so I'm going to use this one, Stack Exchange Redis, which is the free one, and this one used to be free, but now it's no longer free. So Stack Exchange Redis is the same NuGet is available. It's the same DLL or the set of DLLs. DLL used by Stack Exchange. So we are using something pretty good, and this star is for like favorite thing. It's recommended, and this one smile, that means the community is active to the GitHub project. So people are like within last 6 months it's been active. Okay. So those are like some interesting stuff. Okay. Now actually I wanted to do it from scratch, but other libraries, team, dev, Redis, client, there are several stuff.
So they built on top of Redis, right?
These are Redis clients. Clients in the sense here now for us from our application to communicate to Redis actually through a
Azure Redis service.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be Azure. So Azure in the sense when you provide the keys and everything, so it will create the connection and try to connect to that Azure that Redis instance. So it doesn't matter it's Azure, right?
So Redis works on HTTP.
Yeah, it works on HTTP. actually it doesn't need HTTP. Even that communication. Praveen, I will show. I will come to that. There's a lot goes inside that part. That's what actually these guys, different clients are trying to optimize and implement. So the Stack Exchange Redis, it's using something called a connection multiplexer. So all the magic happens there, and actually I haven't dig into that area. So that's the most critical part of this application. I will come to that. Okay, so first of all, let's say I've created a console application, and first thing you need to do is you need to get the NuGet for Redis. So when you search for the NuGet, you will get this one, and actually this one, and there's another one called Redis.strong name. So I will come to that as well. Okay, so you have to install that using the package manager console. You can go there and install that. So I have already installed it. So it will install this one. And after that, what I did was I have created this class, this one and this one. Actually, this is the main class using the Redis Stack Exchange Redis. So there you need to create the connection multiplexer object. So this one actually. So this is this one is the connection multiplexer is the one who does who's responsible for doing all the communication, and you have to make it static. You cannot have a lot of connection multiplexers trying to communicate with Redis. So there's a limitation. So it's been advised to have one instance of that and reuse that again and again. And when you are creating that connection, so you have to give attributes of how you are going to connect to Redis. So there are lots of stuff, and there's a Redis cache URL and a Redis cache key. So you need these two to connect to that Redis. So that's where actually I have created an app config. So I'm using this URL and access key. So in the Azure portal, when you create a Redis cache instance, you get these attributes. So this is something we use in our dev environment. Okay, now so after you creating this core class, what I did was actually this class I name it as Redis Stack Exchange Redis extension. So in our Redis cache client, okay. So now here we have the basic operations of this Redis extensions class. So it has the getters, setters, setting the cache, and serializing and deserializing. So one important thing about the caching is that anything you cache, you have to make that serializable. Otherwise, it will throw an error from this area. And the other thing is that I have created a kind of a wrapper class so that we can wrap the client. So later on, if you want to use some other client, you can implement that in different classes and replace it here. So that's a very basic way of extending. So you can do that, and using that Redis cache Exchange library, I have created the class, created a cache client which I have exposed some basic attributes. So normally we want to set a cache, right? It's obvious. Get cache by cache key. Set cache with expiry. So we can define a timeout, and there's a clear cache method. Once you pass the key, you can clear the cache, and I've created another method by giving certain list of keys. You can clear the whole cache, so related to those keys, and set cache expiry, and another thing whether it's active or not. So these are, I'm directly using the API methods from the Exchange Redis. Okay, so and I have another class called keys. I will come to that later. Okay, now let's see how caching works, right? Okay, so in my program, so I am first creating a string called cache key, some string. So this is going to be the key, and I'm trying to get the cache with this key. So I'm looking the Redis cache whether there's a cache object referring to this key, right? So initially it should be then null. If it's null, then I'm going to set this object string as nice key, and then pass it on to the set cache method with the key and the whatever the object, right? So that's pretty straightforward. And then I'm trying to see whether it's stored in the cache, and whether can I query it with the cache. So let me put a breakpoint somewhere here, and let's run this one. Okay, now initially it should be null, right? And now I'm setting the cache key, so that's where it does the, let's say, the magic. And then now here we just queried the cache, and it's there, right? Okay, now I'm going to run it again. So this time will it be stored in the cache? Will I be able to query it from the cache? What do you think? Yumi, what do you think? Will it be there or no? Okay, it must be there, right? So we have just cached it. Now if it's not in the cache, so what's the purpose of caching? Okay, so let's see. Okay, it's in the cache, right? So that's good. So now actually it was a cache hit. The other scenario, the first scenario, was a cache miss. So with caching, we want it to be have more cache hits, so that we know that the cache is being utilized properly. Okay, now I am going to show you. Now this is just a like string. I mean, we just store a string in the cache, and now I will go to a little bit more advanced example. So we are going to cache an object, some kind of a business object. Okay, so I have created a class called user, and it has just age and name, some very basic attributes, right? And here, so I'm again creating a key, and first of all I'm trying to query the cache with that key, whether there's is there anything with the key called new user, and trying to cast it to a user object. And again, if there's a cache miss, we are going to put it into the cache and give it a try to get it out of the cache, right? Okay, now will this work?
object is not there, is it related to null?
No. Yeah.
So this data saved in the cache data, saved in the verified location, right?
Recommended?
If they are saved in the verified location.
Yeah, somewhere in the cloud, but which is from the Azure cache management, in the Azure management portal, you can specify a location to locate your cache servers. So in this scenario, it might be somewhere in US, right? So again, now I have provided enough data for you to, enough theory for you to understand whether this will work or not. So this particular scenario. So do you think it will work? Or it should work? Okay, let's try. So we think the code works, but sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, right? So I haven't added any try catch, so since I'm sure that what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm getting the this exception, right? Serialization. So basically, what it does say is your objects has to be able to serialize. So I'm going to use the system.serializable attribute, and now it will work. So I wanted to highlight that you have to make sure that all your objects are serializable, and if there are any objects being used by those objects, they should also be serializable. So now it will give us a null, and then we use that's because just before the demonstration I cached this user. Okay, let's clear the cache. You can do that. Cache client dot clear cache key 2. Okay, let's use this one. Right. Okay, so directly clear cache. We cleared. Now we'll run that. Okay, now actually this example that what I'm demonstrating you can directly use it in one of your applications, because we have created the wrappers and everything. So the settings wise also there's actually this Redis Cache client, there are some certain configurations you have to study and do it. So this one actually this was a tricky one. So config sync timeout. So this means that this is like a WCF kind of a timeout. So you are asking it to wait this much of time. Otherwise, the default timeout is not enough for us to try this stuff from here, because it will quickly get timeout and it will give you a timeout error. So we are waiting for some I think milliseconds, 30. Actually, Hiran, from the Azure management portal, you can configure that, right? So normally the default value is like 1 hour, and it's a big, I mean, it's some kind of a significant value. So what we should do is, from our application, so we have so we have come up with this one. So what we did was, so we came in this one and we store a cache timeout value in the system values, so in minutes, so that we use that value to get the expiration for the cache. Okay, so that's about now this similar caching strategy, miss cache it kind of scenario we are using in our dashboards. So for an example, if you think about the complex dashboard with lot of charts and lot of historical data, it's very beneficial for you to have them cached and use the cache. So that's of course will save a lot of time. People are using those things very actively.
Different versions of the app, object definitions can get changed, especially with the serialization object properties. Now users are using the app, and users have some various data cached their own dashboards. For example, dashboard data. So with your new version of the app, you are now deploying it, and that dashboard, a particular chart, now has an extra attribute. And a missing property from earlier. So now if the same user tries to, so the second request he is sending, now he is sending for the new deployed version.
Yeah, Praveen, on that actually we also discussed that. So with the new deployment, we need to flush the cache. So the flush is there to remove everything in the cache. So we haven't tried that yet, but that's something we need to do after a deployment. We need to flush the cache. Actually, there are some other caching strategies we can follow. I will come to that soon after the demo, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, and another interesting thing is that now when it comes to this Redis cache, so I've just created a wrapper to expose the only the stuff that I'm interested in. Now, if you look at this the Redis connector, the methods. Now you can look at this scroll bar right now. Create transaction, hashing, hash objects. So there are lots of methods, right? So it's not like you can use it to do complex things, but the basic thing that I just show you is also very useful for you to use it in your projects. And also another thing is that now this Redis, the module that we have, the way that we thought of designing is to have a kind of it has a separate project or separate library, so that you can use it among web API projects, so Windows service projects, WCF, anywhere you can use this library and use it to cache. So that's one thing you can think about when you are applying it. Another very important thing I need to mention is that now you have just noticed that the cache key is very critical, right? Now I have just stored this user object with cache key name new user, and if I use the same cache key in the this scenario, that cache will get overridden. So it will lead to undesired stuff, right? So you need to have a mechanism to manage your cache keys. So one approach recommended is that have a separate cache keys class, and there maintain a list of cache keys. So or else you can come up with your own mechanism to manage your cache keys, right? Okay, so that's about the demo. Okay, let me get back to the presentation. Okay, so well, actually now I just demonstrated you how we can use caching in a real world application and a basic scenario of caching a basic very primitive data type and a kind of a business object. And when it comes to caching strategies, I mean this is what we have tried on demand cache side. So we first try to get it from the cache. If it's not there, then cache. And the other one is now the problem, I mean, not the problem, the drawback of this one is, for an example, if you are talking about a complex dashboard, like I just mentioned, and now I'm trying to get the data from the dashboard, and okay, as long as it's in the cache, it's giving me within like 1 or 2 seconds. But if there's a cache miss, I have to go to the persistent data storage and query everything. It might take, I don't know, it might cause a timeout depending on the data, right? So in that kind of a scenario, what it does is, what we can do is have a background data push where there's a background process which is checking the cache, going through the cache keys and checking the cache for critical caching objects and upload it to the cache. So that one is a very interesting strategy that we can use, right? Okay, now these are the people, these are the like organizations using Redis Cache. So of course it's very obvious that it's a very interesting topic. So Twitter, I just read about Twitter for which purpose they are using caching. Actually, they are using it for something called timeline in Twitter. So where it keeps up to 800 tweets of a person. So everything is in the cache, and that's how they have optimized stuff. And I just mentioned Stack Overflow is using that, and Flickr the caching some of the images stuff, and others I think very popular applications. Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to demonstrate and share my knowledge. Okay, now it's time for you to ask any questions.
So we know that we use cache, right?
Yes.
So we use cache in only our same server. So in this case, we are using some third-party servers, which take some time to load data from those servers. Some remote location, something like that. What would that be a problem?
Well, now Redis is a distributed cache. Now I'll go back to that slide. Yeah. So now we are talking about this scenario where we have now IPG. It's a kind of an in-house app which lies on one server, and there the in-memory cache is fine, right? But now in this scenario where we have like 4 servers running parallelly, and they need to have access to cache, and here we have a lot of advantages of using it. So I mean, especially when it comes to cloud development, it has the benefit over having like in-memory cache. And the other point that I mentioned, when you have let's say purchased several VMs, so make sure to have the caching, the Redis instances closer to geographically close to those areas. So in that way, it will reduce the latency factor. Redis, right? Yeah.
I think now the application is in our on-premises, and if you store the data in the Azure, then it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Cache, right? So what we have to do is we have to in-house do the caching on premises.
Yeah, you can do that, Kiran. So one way is that actually you can set up your own Redis cache server. That's possible. So there's a website called Microsoft OpenTech applications, and there you can download the Microsoft's version, the Redis cache version done for the Windows, and it's a very lightweight one. So you can install that and quickly you can run that. So you can use that for your trial purposes, but again, have a separate dedicated cache server. You need to have that configuration, server maintenance, and everything done.
That the client that you should use for the demo, it's connected to the Azure, right?
Yeah, it's connected. Actually, connecting in a sense. I've used that code to connect it to a Azure server, but I haven't tried the local host. But definitely, if you give it a local host kind of a setting, it will connect to the local host. So
like a connection string.
Yeah, connection string. Exactly. Nothing else but a connection string. Okay. Alright, so these are some of the very interesting references. So this one actually is a small book. It's called the Little Redis book. So it has very interesting stuff, as well as some more details about the data types stuff. And these are some very introductory videos. So you can refer to them. Okay, if there's no more questions, okay, thank you.